Okay, so announcement number one. I revealed assignment number one, as you may have noticed. So in Blackboard, under assignments, which is a link that I revealed, you have assignment number one. And basically you have to emulate this. So let me play this YouTube clip. And as I said last week, all you have to do is basically iterate what you've been doing before. So here I can now click on tweet in both the image and the text tweets. If I click on the GIF, I can search for something. I can click on something. And I can tweet it out. Oh, let me put a text in. And now I can tweet it out, which goes down. For bonus marks, you can use the video tag instead of the image tag, so that way the user can control the playback instead of just immediately play back. Then you got the emoji stuff, right? Along with text, along with emoji. And that can now tweet out. There it is. And finally, for today, and this is what I'm when I'm questioning if we can do this today, because I just recently learned something new. So you type in your choices. So it looks like that. You click on one, and you get the results dynamically from a database. Okay? So that is pretty much it. As you can see here, the rubric is, can you tweet all the different things? As well as you may have noticed, I've carried over your lab and exercise marks for each week. That counts for this. So that's why I say make sure you do your weekly stuff. So yeah. Question, for those who have registered for MLab, and this is what I just recently learned today, are you able to get to this screen? So let me log out for a second. When you log in here, do you get to this screen, or does it redirect you to somewhere else? I anticipate it will take you to this kind of screen. Yes? Or does, yeah? Well, sorry again? MongoDB? So does it look like this? No? Okay. So I think what happened recently is that MLab was recently bought out by MongoDB. So I don't think you can actually get this kind of screen anymore, which is unfortunate because I was hoping I'd show you how to do this. However, I'm betting that if you can kind of figure out on how to make your own, sandbox database, that it should be the same thing, I would assume. And we could maybe figure that out together. Because all I really want you to do is to create a database. That's all I want you to do. And there should be an API that allows you to insert or retrieve from that database. And maybe, yeah. Okay. We'll see how we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Okay. Second thing I wanted to mention is this. So remember how I showed you this video clip from Front End Masters? I just learned, or I recently heard about. So all of you have this, right? GitHub Student Developer Pack, I'm assuming. Check it out. This is new. Oh, there it is. Front End Masters, you get free 6 months access to all the courses and workshops. I thought that's cool. Another announcement. So far we've been putting in CodePen, your Jiffy API key. Just a word of caution, you're not really supposed to put API keys on the public side where people can access them, because if they can, obviously maybe do something with it. But we'll do that here for now. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. But just know that. Yeah. What was that? Oh, zoom in to the assignment? Yeah. This should be available on your Blackboard as well. The other thing I wanted to mention is this. So new in ES6 is let's say you had an object that looks like, I don't know, name is okay, so say you had this. Now, in the past, before ES6, you'd have to, if you want to pass that value of al into this new object, you'd have to say name, name. New in ES6 is this. If both names are the same, then you could just shorten it to this. That's it. Yes, that's new. What else I don't know to mention? Yeah. One thing else I wanted to mention, based on last year, which you won't need for this year, but just something I think you might want to know, is this. Grabbing what's typed from a document form. Let's try this. So here I have just some random form from some random website. I'm going to show you a different way to get the values from here without using document.querySelector. So first, I need to make sure that the everything here has an ID. So does the form have an ID? No. So let's just add an ID. ID equals my form. Oops. Yeah, that should be okay. And then the input itself should have an ID. Does it? Yes, it has the name. Perfect. So check it out. So I can type in anything here, and I can access it through document. Sorry, not document. Yeah, document.forms. And then the ID. See, if I just press enter right now, it should give me that form. Now inside that form, I have the input tag with the ID of name. So if I say my form.name, it should now give me the input tag, and it does. And to get the value, like before, just say value. There. That's exactly what I typed here. This is the old way of getting stuff, but I think it's actually a more elegant way. The older way is more elegant. Instead of document query selecting all that stuff, you could just do that. Yeah. It's for the input. It's for this one right here, for this attribute right here, for the input value. Yeah. So you know how you normally query select an input box and say that dot value to get whatever was typed. So same thing here, dot value on that input box. Same difference. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. So that's just an FYI. You don't need to know that for this class, not for this year. But I just wanted to make sure that all the information I had last year is carried over somewhat over here. Okay, so this is what we're going to learn. We're going to do something new called destructuring. So this is another evolution of the language of JavaScript that you should definitely know. So I'm going to start off with a regular old function that you all know. So we're going to call that function on $100. So what goes in here? Maybe, oops, return total plus total times tax, something like that, plus total times tip, as long as that's in decimal format. So if I, hey, how come it's not running? Is this not Quokka? No, it's not. I think it's still thinking, because that should not be nan, I don't think. Is it still thinking? Or did I do a mistake? Screw Quokka. Let's do this. Let's go through. Oh, right. Thank you. That's what it was. Thank you. I did a mistake. Yes. Yes. Thank you. So if I say 0.13 and 0.15. Thank you. Okay. Right. So this is all traditional functions we know from 1073, whoopie-doo. How would we change the above code if I didn't include this, which is what I had originally? So I'm going to show you something called destructuring, which makes things more robust in functions. Okay? So traditionally, how would I take care of this? So I would probably say something like this. If tax was undefined, traditionally I'd say, tax equals something, right? And then same thing for the tip. I'd do the same thing for tip. But with destructuring, you could do this. Let me just right. Before I get to destructuring, I'm going to get into default parameters. So what you could do is this. Just like in other programming languages, you could put a default value. So if nothing is passed, right, nothing was passed here for tax, I can say equals some default value for that and for, hopefully, yes. There's no ternary operator in there. In here? No, but I think just the nature of default parameters, it's you can sort of think of it like a ternary operator. If undefined, then use this. I guess you could think of it like that, right? So now my function works. So that's default parameter. So that's something new in JavaScript, which is basically like other languages that also have default parameters. Okay, cool. Now what if I wanted to skip the tax? So here, if I'm calling it, what if I just wanted to skip the tax part and just enter something? Will it work? By the way, if I enter something here that's totally different, like that, right? So 30 is different from the default. It will use the 30. It will ignore this. It will use whatever I passed. But what if now I want to leave that blank? It should give me some kind of error or undefined kind of thing. Oh, sorry. And that's where destructuring. Oh, I have to pass undefined. Sorry. But that's useless. You don't ever want to call a function like that. So now this is where destructuring comes in. So this allows us to extract data from objects and arrays. So I'm just going to comment this out for now. I'm going to move on to a different subject, different object. So let's say we have this new object called person. And I'll name it after a famous TV character. Apparently. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So question, how would you normally extract the first name? So if I just say const first equals, how would I get the value of this normally? Answer? Right, person.first. Okay. Now, how would I get it for the last name? Same thing, right? Similar thing. Now you can imagine if this object was had 20 properties all on the same level, you'd imagine that I could have 20 different lines just like this. What destructuring allows you to do is this. Watch. You can say, you can extract just the ones you want. Now, if you console log, you get both. All in one shot, all in one line, right? So you could have as many things here as you want, depending on the object itself. But in one line, you've extracted the data. That is a beautiful addition to the language. Question, how do you think I would get this? What goes on the right-hand side? Correct. Right? Okay, so that's how to use destructuring for objects. So now let's go back to our calculator. Comment this out. So how would you now change our function to include destructuring? And this is what you would do. In here, let's pretend these parameters are defined now in an object. So just before we call that function, let's say const amount equals some object, and then inside that object we have all of the values. And then here, we're going to pass in that entire object. So this is this entire object. So now, how do we change this function definition? Answer, just like with this line up here, or this line up here, we're using the same kind of concept down here. So I'm just going to call it out. Total tax tip. That's it. Now that should work, and indeed it does work, as you can see here. Okay. So again, we can use default parameters to make it more robust. So if I choose not to include tax, for example, so if I take out tax entirely, now it doesn't work. But now I can use the default parameters, so it works, right? So I can still use the same concept as before if I wanted to, right? Now, how would you make this even more robust if the total was missing? So if the total was missing, it doesn't work anymore, put in something, right? But here's what the big idea. Why is this more robust? Because you don't care about the order anymore, right? So originally I had total 100 first, then I had tax second, but what if I decide to change it around? So what if I just say boop, boop? It doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter, right? Because we're dealing with objects. So that's beautiful because in the past, you would have to care about the order, right? Tax, total, comma, tax tip. You'd have to worry about, okay, how is the function defined? Oh, right, I need this for the first parameter, this was that. But now you don't care about the sequence of your parameters. You just pass in the entire object. Beautiful. Here's the final question. How do you make this function even more robust if this was not even defined? There you go. Answer, default parameters equals empty object. And then it should, oh, hold on. Not defined. I think I had everything there. Why didn't it work? Amounts. Oh, right. I have to take out that. So if I didn't have this originally, I cannot destructure property total. Okay, so now, because I'm passing in nothing, I can put in a default parameter of an empty object. If I pass in nothing, so now this function is totally robust. If I pass in nothing, if I pass in one thing, if I pass in all three properties, then it works. So that is destructuring in a nutshell for objects. There's also destructuring for arrays, but we'll get into that in a second. First, I want you to examine what our assignment requires for the graph, for the survey. So here's my actual Twitter account. I'm going to click on the survey icon. And when I click on it, I want you to think what steps are needed to make this happen. Okay? So I click it. First thing you see is a form pops open. So immediately you're thinking, okay, I need to link this button icon with some kind of function that immediately inserts this form. Okay, the next thing that happens is, you type in whatever, you click on tweet. So here's the next thing is, my tweet functionality has to change to incorporate some kind of survey like this. Then, Now in this case, I can't vote on my own survey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up someone else's survey, survey vote. So what does it look like for other people to look at a survey? It looks like this. So somehow you have to keep track of what's been entered in my previous form. Then if I click on something, so I'm going to click on one right here, click, it gives me the results. So how are you going to keep track of all that in one tweet object? So you need basically a way, when you click on the button, you need a way to keep track of what was clicked on. So you have a little check mark here that indicates this is the one I clicked on. You need a way to fetch the results from a database, which hopefully we can do today. I'm not even sure if we can do that. You need a way to, based on the number of votes, turn it into percentages. You need to store all of that inside this particular tweet object, right? So this object used to have just, tweet colon message in text, but now I'm going to insert all of this other stuff along with that just to keep track of it, right? So this is the kind of thing that you have to think about. And I think this functionality is so big we can't possibly do this in one class today. So we'll have to divide it into 2 classes. Okay. So, but here's what's going to happen. When you click on vote, when a user clicks on vote, eventually you're going to call a function called tweet voted. Okay. And you're going to pass in some parameters, and it's going to look like this. So this is coming from my actual code when I did this assignment. So you're going to have a votes results array that comes from a database that kind of looks like this. You have an array with A has 1, B has 3 votes, D has 2. It may not be in the right order. That's okay. So you have that coming in. You also have to keep track of what was chosen. So, maybe the user chose B. You want to, for me, I added an additional property called isPollFinished. This is true because before I set it to false, and I use this flag to basically determine whether or not I display the voting buttons or whether or not I display the results of the voting. And then, in addition, you have the actual tweet itself, right? So originally you just had some kind of text message, but now I want to add in this object all of this. And that's all going to happen in this function. Okay. So that's just a little insight. Let's go back to destructuring again. So that's just FYI. Let's go back to destructuring for array. So we just destructured objects up above. We're going to destructure arrays next. So here's what it looks like. So let's say we have an array, const ingredients equals an array. And you have different things. So question, what is the old way to get elements if I wanted the first one? I would have to say what? Old way, ingredients, 0, right? New way. Same thing, kind of the same thing before. You need the square brackets. You can say something like this, furnish equals. Now you can say console log first base. Now you have in one line, you've just extracted all of that. Now, question, what if you don't care about the third element onwards or the second element onwards? What if you don't care about that? You could do a spread operator. So this is something new. A rest operator. So a rest operator is 3 dots, just like a spread operator. Okay, and you could add whatever you want there. And what it's going to do is it'll still capture the first one, but then stores the rest in an array. Okay. And my favorite way to destructure that haven't seen in any other language. When I first saw this, I was amazed. Let's pretend that you had two variables. Question: what was how would you traditionally swap these values? What 3 lines of code do you need? Swap so that A has this value and vice versa. What do you, or how about this? What would you have to introduce to make this happen? Yeah, you'd need some kind of temporary variable as a placeholder, so that you could do something like this, and then say A equals B, and then say B equals C, or did I erase something already? You know what I mean. You know what I mean, right? So check it out. With destructuring arrays, you could just do this. That's it. What happened here? Beautiful, 1 line of code. Swapping. Neat, eh? I like it. Okay. So when last week I told you to make sure your AWS is working, we're going to scrap that idea, I think, because number one, it's on using HTTP, not HTTPS, so you're going to have problems with CORS. And number two, every time I log into my AWS, it doesn't work if I'm directly connected to with a network cable. So here's mine, I can connect, and it's going to crap out on me, and I can't get in. So forget that. But it's still there, it still works. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to try to emulate our own voting system. You can think of it as a Kahoot kind of thing, okay? We're going to go back to our comp2112 days, which is PHP. If you remember that. So let me show you that right now. Right. Okay, so first I have this HTML page here. Let's take a look at that HTML page. Looks like this. Okay. If you were to inspect the code for that, I basically have for each button one form. So here is for the A button. So notice I'm using a method post here. It's hitting my AWS, and it's hitting this vote.php. So just as a reminder, for comp1006, I'm going to show you, for not vote.php, but demo1.php, which is right over here. So if you remember from 1006, you can do a post request to a PHP page, and it'll actually get your form data. So let me just try this. Okay, so now that I changed this to demo1, I'm going to actually vote here now, refresh. And to check, I'm going to go to my AWS, what's it called? Game1. Here it is, API. So here, here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna click on this, and so what it should do is it should run this code, right? Let's see what happens. So click A, there. I don't know if you see that. Vote is A. So question: where is this A coming from in my HTML? Yeah, the value attribute, right? So if I change that to Z, some other thing, and try it again, back, refresh, vote is Z, right? So that's where that connection comes from. It's coming from here. Okay, great. Now I'm going to change it back to the original one. Instead of demo1, I'm going to say vote.php. So let me show you vote.php. Vote.php is essentially the same thing as before. However, I'm now inserting the vote inside my SQL database, right? So whatever, if I vote for A, $vote is A. It says $A. It says A, and then I put that in my database. Let's see that in action. So I have here my SQL workbench. There it is. Let's see that live. So here, I'm going to run this query. There should not be, okay, there should be nothing, right? So now, let's see if there'll be something. If I click on A now, or any other option, let's see what happens. So if I click on A, okay, see our MySQL workbench, run this query. One vote for A. Let's try another one. Let's try B. Let's try C. Let's try D. And let's try A again. Now let's go to MySQL workbench, run it. Aha, I have 5 entries. Great. Now, after a few hours of twiddling, I figured, okay, trying to remember back in Andrew's class. Let's try to summarize this from the SQL database. So I came up with this select statement here. So let me run this select statement on my data right now. It gives me this nice chart. A has 2 votes, B has 1, C has 1, D has 1. Wouldn't it be great if I could now use those MySQL results and spit it out as JSON data? How do you do that? Does anyone remember the magical PHP command to do that? So here, I have another PHP page called api.php, where the query is the exact query I just ran to summarize it all, but I'm running it in PHP. I'm executing that command. I do the fetch all to get the results, and now this variable vote is all of that results in an associative array format. The magic command to turn in any associative array into JSON is this one right here, JSON encode. So the parameter has to be an associative array. And now I'm just spitting it out. Let's see that in action. The browser, change my thing to api.php, enter, ta-da. So now I can get in the JSON data format the results of my SQL database. So now you're probably brainstorming, oh, you have JSON data, I can now fetch that. So wouldn't it be cool if we grab some charting library like this, chart.js, let's get started. Let's copy this entire code and see if we can hook it up. And I'm going to get you to vote, and we'll see it in action. Yeah? All right. So let's copy this thing here. Let's make a new page. Let's call it chart. Oh, I already have a chart.html. Put that in, paste, and I obviously need some kind of script. Where's my getting started? Here. Getting started, I need this script. Let's put that in my HTML. Great, let's open it up and see what we get. Chart 2. So this is their default getting started page. Wow, okay. Whoa, okay, it's too big. I want to somehow, can I reduce it, do you think? Width 200, height 100, maybe that'll do something. I don't know, let's see. Great, okay. Now, obviously this is using the hard-coded data. I want to make this fit with my data. So first of all, I gotta chop off 2 bars. So where do we do that? So here in the categories where we have all these colors, let's chop off 2. Here for all of these things, let's chop off 2. Chop off 2 there. Data. This is obviously where the bars are getting their data from, right? So let's chop off 2. Save that. Let's see. Anything else? I don't think so. Refresh. Wonderful. So that's with the hard-coded data right there. I wanted to use my data. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to put this in Blackboard. I'm going to give you a chance to try to make that happen so that it'll dynamically show the bar graphs whenever anyone clicks the vote. Okay? So let me zip this up, or maybe let me just attach it. And you could just use a fetch, or you could use a async await fetch, whatever you want. Week 6, no, week 5. Nope. No, I want to browse. Yes, yes, yes. Chart 2. There we go. Submit. And you should see it right now. All right, so I just revealed in week 5 this chart2.html page, which is what I just typed. Okay? And so I'm going to give you the URL that will allow you to fetch from the data. So this API.php, I want you to fetch from that API and try your best, just for fun, to see if you can hook it up to that bar chart, and we'll see if it works. Let me put that link right here. Fetch from here. Okay. So if you've done it correctly, every time someone votes using the vote.html page, which I also had, which I can give you as well. Here, I'll just give you this link right here. Same thing. Oops. Test it by voting here. So test your code by voting here. There you go. I think you have everything you now need to make that happen. Okay? So take like 10 minutes and try to make your own survey, polling, Kahoot kind of thing. And I'll take it up after 10 minutes. So obviously, you need to get rid of this hard-coded value and put in your stuff that you fetched. Okay, so somewhere in your script, you could even have like this, fetch, whatever URL, right? You can even do that. Then you get the response. Then you get the data. But here is where the magic happens. So now that you've got the data, you have to now insert that in here. So my suggestion would be all of this code goes in here. That's one way to do it, right? Then you have access to the data variable. So now instead of 12, it could be like data dot something, right? Try it. Or however you choose to structure it. I'm actually looking at my answer now, and it looks like I did something a little bit different. So however you choose to structure it. make it work. Because essentially, if you can do this, this is essentially what the Twitter is asking you to do with the survey icon. Let's do the MLab, because with MLab it's HTTPS, which fits nicely with what we're doing. But now I'm worried that no one can get to the screen that I'm looking at because MLab has been bought by MongoDB recently, so the screen you're looking at is different. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Anyone get it working, where you can vote and you can see the bar graph change dynamically? Anyone get that? No, not yet? Okay. Let's try this. I want everyone to go to this link. I'm presenting you the answer. I want everyone to click on this link right here in Blackboard, the test it by voting here, which is the vote.html page. And before you start clicking your way, let me just reset my database. So I actually have a reset votes.php, which drops my database, recreates my database, and now we can try it again. Okay, so now that you've opened the vote.html, I want you to vote. And I'm going to click on refresh, and hopefully something appears. There you go. Right? So I keep on clicking refresh, and the vote should naturally change as you keep on clicking away. So that is, in essence, how you do it. If you want the answer to how I did it, all you have to do is just right-click that page and view page source, and you'll see my version of how I did that up here, where I used the fetch. Okay. But in essence, I just want you to get the big picture. Oh, okay, I'm hitting a server. I'm entering my vote in a database, in their database. I'm also hitting the server to get the results of all the votes, and now I'm doing something without result. That's it. That's the big picture idea. Okay. Question, what would be the natural next step to make this better so that I don't have to keep on hitting the refresh button? Yeah. Yeah. Not a set timeout, because that only does one. What's the command to run something every 1 second? Yeah, set interval. So somewhere in my code, I could have maybe like a set interval, and that would always pull the data every 1 second. Therefore, this should automatically, dynamically change every second. So that's something you could consider. So that's just the big idea. And I also wanted you to know, oh, you know, JSON can be used for other, as an exchange language between other platforms like PHP, right? So JSON is not just limited to JavaScript, right? That's why JSON took over XML, by the way, because with XML, it takes too much processing power to parse it, whereas JSON, it's right there. It's JavaScript format already. Okay. See, now at this point, I was going to demonstrate how to create in MLab a collection that looks like this. But now all of you have a screen that redirects you somewhere else, so now I'm not sure what to do. So let me think about that. What time do we have? Perfect, 1:50. Okay, this is what I want everyone to do. We're going to do quiz number 4. So under tests, quiz 4, I shall make it available. You can work with a partner with this, and it's just one question. It's only one question. It's a coding question, and I give you a new URL or a new API, and you just read the documentation and try to figure it out on your own or with a partner. Okay, and you have 15 minutes to try. And you can work with anyone you want to for this one. I want you to talk it out with someone. Basically, I'm doing this to train you for the midterm. So consider this like a midterm coding question. Except you could talk to somebody. No, I still have to decide what the midterm will look like, but it'll probably have a coding question, right? So I'm just testing your ability to use async await and your ability to fetch data. Okay. All right. Let me change it. That was quiz 4. Oh.